Shalom, everybody, and welcome back. And a nice friendly reminder: if you are connecting to and enjoying these teachings of Breslov or Rabbi Nachman and Rav Nosson, please share them with others. Since we are very close to Pesach and close to Purim, and like Rabbi Nachman teaches that Purim is a preparation for Pesach, so we have stopped for now the other discourse in the Halakhot, Hoda Avav, which is continuing in the depth of Yaakov's dream. And we're now going back to Nefilat Apayim, another discourse, number 4, where Rav Nosson goes into the concepts of Pesach. So we're holding in paragraph 11. We left off here about over half a year ago. We're continuing now. Just a little bit of the recap. Rav Nosson now is going to go into the prohibition of chametz, why it's so forbidden, and chametz and its connection to the leavening of the mind. And that's the whole problem. Really, it is a high level to have a mind which is leavened, lachmitz, to leaven the mind in the da'at of the Torah, of the da'at of Hashem, and that way connecting. That's a high level. But for the person who's not ready for that, it's extremely dangerous. It's extremely dangerous to the person who's very corrupt and immoral and perverted and full of blemishes and sins, and at the same time, like he wants to perceive God at the highest of levels. Buddy, you don't have the vessels for that. How do you expect to perceive if you don't have vessels? Okay? So this is one of the biggest tests of life, is that people want a perception, want an understanding, even though they're not ready for it. And from heaven, they say, you're not ready for it. You have to wait. We have to be in waiting mode to prove that you, through thick and thin, can hold on and do minimum devotion to connect. And when we see you're fit, we'll let you have the experience of light, which will shine the infinite light into your awareness. Okay? But in the meantime, a person has to wait and wait for that. Okay? However, we're going to see now, in the whole story of Pesach, it was the exact opposite. But the exact opposite. The Jews weren't ready for this level of da'at, which is called chametz. They weren't ready to wait because they were so low. Telling them to wait would make them just fall totally. So Hashem went beyond his normal tendency, beyond his normal way, and he shone into the Jewish people a big light above their true level, and in doing so, give them experience of this light. But then once lifting them out of what they had to be lifted out of, that light was taken away, and now they have to work to reconnect to it. And this, Rav Nosson explains in many, many places, is the way it is for every Jew. Every Jew, where they're stuck in all types of darkness, and in bad situations, and in misery, and everything. And all of a sudden, they have a big light of Hashem, and they wake up. It's like a light of tshuva. Person who was so low, rock bottom, and all of a sudden, he woke up. Hashem showed him this light. So that person has to know was a gift above his level. It wasn't, oh, look at me, I'm at the top of the world now, I'm on the top of the universe. It was a gift to get them out, because if they were to wait more and more there, they would fall off altogether. So Hashem in his kindness shines this light to a person to bring him up. Once he's tasted that light, experienced that it exists, then they take it away from the person. They say, now you have to work for it. You have to work and you have to do a lot of waiting. Now you're in the chametz mode. But then you're in what's called matzah mode. So watch what Rav Nosson says. We're continuing where we left off from the beginning of paragraph 11. We're now continuing from where we left off. So he says like this, going back to the picture of the Jews in Egypt. וישראל במצרים, שהיו בגלות גדול מאוד, והיו משוקעים ב49 שערי טומאה, שנפלו לשם על ידי חטא אדם הראשון. So now the Jewish people, the nation of Israel, in Egypt, they were considered to being in a very, very big, huge exile. And they were so steeped to the extent of what's called the 49 levels, 49 gates and levels of impurity, that they fell there through the sin of Adam HaRishon. Okay, just to explain. In Judaism, things are measured up to the number 50. 50 is considered to be the maximum experience. So just like you have in holiness 50 levels to reach, so too on the opposite direction in impurity, there's 50 levels of impurity. 50 on both sides, number 50 of holiness and number 50 of impurity, connotes something which is limitless, which is infinite. The 50th level of holiness is the gateway to the infinite light. That's why it's number 50. Okay? And so too, God forbid, when a person reaches minus 50, like there's no hope. There's no point of return. And we work to always have hope and hope and hope. The hope is up to minus 50. Once a person's in minus 50, it's like without supernatural help, a person has no hope at that level. Okay? So he's saying in Egypt, the Jews reached minus 49. They were almost at minus 50. Almost at a point of no return. So that's how low they fell. And he adds an amazing point of Nosson. He says, they fell to that level, it wasn't necessarily due to the Jews themselves, but for who they were. Okay, he says, Kamuva, as is brought down, this is in the writings of the Arizal, that the Jews born in Egypt, believe it or not, they were reincarnations of the wasted seed of the first man, Adam HaRishon. Adam HaRishon, from the time that he separated from his wife after Cain killed Hevel, so he separated from his wife for 130 years, and the Zohar teaches, and even in the Midrash and the Gemara, that he was having emissions, nocturnal emissions for 130 years, that demons would heat him up while sleeping, and extract from him wasted seed, which is an admixture of a holy soul, but because it's wasted and it's not meant for reproduction, it goes to the other side. So these souls had to be rectified. And the Arizal teaches that after many stages of coming back, in the generation of the flood, the generation of the Tower of Babel, some say also in the generation of Sodom, they came back in as the Jews born in Egypt under bondage. And the bondage was really bad. It was really severe. Like the Torah says, they were mamash enslaved at crazy levels. Men doing women's work, women doing men's work, and the bondage of building the bricks and the pyramids and everything, and the suffering, and then their sons after being thrown into the Nile River, all these crazy things of the bondage that the Jews went through. Okay, all that was to rectify, to cleanse them. It's called like a kur. A kur barzel is the instrument used to making gold, right? So you have to make gold pure. You have to heat it up again and again, and separate all the sediments and all the dross connected to the actual metal of the gold until you have pure gold. There's levels of pure gold, as we know. As those who make gold know, there's like higher level, lower level. Depends how much you purify it and cleanse it from silver and other metals which are mixed in with the metal. It's so, when they dig up gold, it's so messed up and yucky and it's all messed up. Not just the dirt and the rock, but in the metal itself, they have to heat it up again and again in order to purify it from all dross, all excesses. Okay, so the Jews in Egypt were in this kur, the kur barzel, this oven which is used to heating up and cleansing gold, for separating the metal from any other excesses. That's how the Jews were in Egypt. Okay, so they were deserving of that. Why? Because they were reincarnations of the sparks of the souls of the wasted seed, which had to be rectified, because the Arizal teaches there that rectifying wasted seed is a process like gold. You have to again purify and purify and purify. It's a long and hard journey. So this was the sheibud, the bondage that the Jews had in Egypt, was to rectify Adam HaRishon's sin. Because it was through them that they reached such a low level also in Egypt. Okay? ולא היה אפשר לגאולם כי אם על ידי שיעיר עליהם השם יתברך אור גדול מאוד להשיג אלוקותו יתברך בהערה גדולה מאוד. Okay? And he says here, Rav Nosson, and the way things were, that the Jews were in minus 49 and they're suffering bondage and it's just so low, there was no way for Hashem to redeem them except for the following procedure, that he shone upon them, Hashem blessed be shone upon them, this big, very big, intense, massive light. Okay? And where the Jews with this light, what do they do with that light? We're able to perceive Hashem's godliness in such a big light. What does it help to perceive godliness when you're in bondage? When you perceive godliness in your bondage, you become aware that the bondage is not bondage at all. There's no suffering here at all. When Hashem shines you clarity in your life, what you're going through, and the deeper meaning, you can handle it now. It's not suffering. It's suffering because I want one thing to happen and it's going the other way. Or I expect life to go this way and it's going the other way. So that life is going in the opposite direction of how it should be. Instead of being without pain, there's physical pain, or there's the lack of clarity. I'm doing things which I don't want to do. When you're shown that this is the greatest thing you can be doing, and and they show you clearly how it is, you're happy now. There's clarity. I see it. My life has meaning. There's no more bondage. It's not bondage. It's gifts. Okay? Kamuva b'kavanot, as the Arizal explains all this. So Hashem, to help them, had to shine in not a regular light, but a super duper light. They say emanating from the level of 50, the 50th level light, which is above minus 49. To get them out of minus 49, so a plus 50 was needed to bring them out, to shine to them this light in order to get them to wake up and to come out of the bondage. Okay? So that's what he says. Rav Nosson goes on, V'al ken be'emet chamal alehem Hashem yitbarach ve'her alehem ha'ara nifla az kanizka le'el. That's why, reader, that in truth, in line with this, Hashem had compassion for the Jewish people in bondage in Egypt, in slavery and bondage in Egypt, at level minus 49. And he shined upon them this wondrous pele, this wondrous light which comes from level 50, as we mentioned above earlier in this lesson. Aval, but the problem is like this. It's fine and dandy. This happens to every person also in life. There are times when he's on a spiritual high. Like we said, most people, it's the beginning of their discovery of Judaism, of Yiddishkeit, on a higher level of serving Hashem. The trick is like this though. It can't stay that way. That's not all of life. That's a temporary passing experience to let you know what's out there. But Hashem wants you to work for it. He wants you to deserve it. Okay? Because He wants you to get to it with your own energy and your own devotion and your own willpower to get to it. Not just that it's a gift. You're living off a free high. Or I just want a high. Like people, God forbid, on drugs, they're just looking for that high, and high without working for anything. Okay, just causing damage. The opposite, okay? He says clearly now. However, since the whole light that the Jewish people received in Egypt was without any arousal from below, this term, itaruta diltata, means that you work for it, that you earn it. You've done something to deserve it. That's called itaruta diltata, an arousal from below. And because now in Egypt they didn't have any arousal from below, what do you want from them? It was before receiving the Torah, so there's no technical receiving of the Torah. They're in bondage, they're in slavery, everything is just miserable. Like it says, it was before the receiving of the Torah. So what do you want from them? How do you expect them to do? There's no mitzvot. What do you want them to do? What? The 7 laws of Noach? Everyone's doing that. Even the Egyptians were supposed to do that. What's expected of the Jews that you want some arousal from below? Okay, and then on top of the bondage and the slavery and power, the Arizal says power was a big sorcerer. Very bad. He knew what he was doing. In the bondage, the Arizal goes into all the Kabbalistic combinations and calculations to show how Paro specifically knew how to get to the Jews and to take all of their spiritual energy that's supposed to come to them. He was able to divert it and make a detour to him and the Egyptian population. They were what's the word in English? They were leeching off our holiness, our energy. That's why the Jews had energy, because Paro and the Egyptians, they took it all. Thanks to Paro's witch, sorcery, and witchcraft. Okay? Okay, let's go on. And because it was before receiving the Torah, the Jews had no way to access what's called the keter. The keter, the crown, which serves as the interface to receiving infinite light and pushing a person back, where he knows how to wait with joy, doing the mitzvot in the meantime with joy, to be able to receive the infinite light. He mentioned this idea earlier on in the lesson. You can listen to the previous classes to hear that. Al-Ken, so because now the experience of the Jews in the redemption in Egypt was a light way above their level that Hashem shone upon them. So because of that, it's till today and back then, Al-Ken asur az chametz be'isur chamur me'od. Therefore, it's forbidden. Chametz is totally forbidden, and it's with a major prohibition in eating it. Be'isur chamur me'od, a very severe punishment for eating chametz on Pesach. Then, because of what they went through, because they had to now experience a light above their level that Hashem shone upon them, especially specifically on the night of the redemption, the night of Pesach. That's why the Ramban explains they had to already make matzot even before the actual reason to make matzot. The reason the Torah gives to make matzot is because the Egyptians were pushing the Jews to leave. Okay, that means in the morning, get out already, go, leave Egypt. And there was no time to make proper bread with leavening agents, chametz, which takes time. Sourdough, regular dough, when you leaven it, it takes time. They said, no time, just quickly make your provisions and leave. Matzah, water, flour, put in the oven, take it out, go. Okay? The Ramban asks, but Hashem commanded them already, even before that happened, to eat on the night of Pesach already matzot. What do you mean already matzot? The idea of matzot is to commemorate what's going to happen tomorrow. So the Ramban says Hashem foresaw that the Egyptians are going to kick them out. So he wanted the Jews already to realize the reason why we're going to be leaving, is through Hashem's strong hand, Yad Chazaka. So already make matzot, even though the Egyptians weren't pushing the Jews to make matzot on the night of Pesach, which was before the actual redemption in the morning of the next day. Still, to commemorate what's going to happen, they had to eat already matzot. And in our context, it makes much more sense that you have to, in order to be able to receive the light that Hashem shone on the Jews on the night of Pesach, so they had to be free of any trace of chametz already. They had to eat their korban Pesach. Pesach means to skip quickly. Lefaseach, okay? You have to eat the matzot, which is no leavening at all already to experience that light. Through the eating of the korban Pesach, the Jews then experienced this light with the matzah. And till today, whenever we celebrate Pesach, it's still forbidden, and the greatest prohibition, the greatest punishment, God forbid, of eating chametz on Pesach. Why? Because we relive that experience every year. We again go through a type of bondage through Egypt, where each one is in his own personal exile, and the main exile being sadness and depression. The person is heavy and very apathetic and very futile and very negative about himself. I'm getting nowhere in my life. Nothing is moving. My family's not turning out the way I wanted it to turn out. My kids are not turning out the way I want them to do. My marriage is not this. My health is not this. Everything is just so negative. That's an example of the bondage of Egypt. And we relive Pesach, that light, to get back that light of bliss, of experience above our level, to just get us out. Hashem, I'm stuck. I'm so stuck in my life. Help me get out. That's the idea of Pesach every year. Because of that, it's forbidden even till today to eat chametz on Pesach. Okay? So it says, Al ken asur az chametz b'isur chamor me'od, ki hasagatam ve'aratam az haya rak lefi sha'ah. Because again, the perception of the Jews at the time of leaving Egypt, and us every year also on Pesach holiday, it was only temporary. That light that we experience every year, or every person in the beginning of their tshuva also, but in historical perspective in Egypt, that light was a temporary light. It wasn't real. It wasn't the real deal. Hashem gave them as a gift to get them out, just to help get them out. But it's not their light. It's not that they earned it. It's a light above their level, okay? So he says it's temporary, lefi sha'ah. Kamuva, as is brought down in holy books, b'bchinat chipazon. He says a temporary light is what we call in Torah terminology chipazon. Chipazon translates as being quick. That word is used in regards to why we eat matzah and why it's forbidden to eat chametz. He says here, like the verse says in Dvarim, okay, which parsha? Parshat Re'eh, chapter 16, verse 3, and also verse 4, I guess, or somewhere else. Sorry, Rav Nosson is quoting. But the verse there reads, Ki bechipazon yatzata. You're not allowed to eat the Pesach with chametz. And the Torah says, why? Because you left quickly, hurriedly. You were hurried out to leave. And like Rashi points out, who was in hurry? Not you guys. The Egyptians were pushing you to get out. In our context, the klipot, the evil forces, when there's a big light, they can't handle the Jewish people being there. So the klipot themselves push out the Jews. Go, I can't handle this intensity of this big light. It's going to destroy us. Go out already. Go, so the light leaves with you guys. So the chipazon, the swiftness, was of Egypt, but it was experienced by the Jews and their food. They had no time to make chametz bread, bread is the main food of the mind, which he said earlier in this lesson. That's why the food, more than anything else, is associated with chametz, with the souring of the mind, since the mind is made up of the food you eat. So, and the main food nourishment of human beings in general are the 5 grains, especially wheat. Okay, chita. So because of that, in the area of food of the wheat specifically, and the grains, the 5 grains which are forbidden to have chametz on them on Pesach, right? We invest the idea of no chametz, no leavening, quick. Okay, you left quickly because that was the experience. Because if now the Egyptians wouldn't push out the Jews and they would have stayed there, even one more day or even one more second, they would have fallen into minus 50. It was necessary at that exact moment that the Jews left. If they would have stayed even a second more, each Jew, according to when he left Egypt, they would have stayed there 1 second more, they would have been trapped in minus 50 and stuck forever, chas v'shalom. So it was needed to get them out ASAP. On their own, they couldn't do it, so Hashem pushed them. This is an amazing also thing in life, that when you're trying to serve Hashem and you're doing your best, don't force the situation. It'll happen by itself. When you're hoping for an opening, just keep on doing your part of davening and yearning and doing good. When the time is right, the situation will come to you. Don't worry, you don't have to look after the situation. It will come to you. It will come to you and push you forward to the direction that you have to take in life. It's an amazing point here that comes out. Okay? So, and then he brings a pasuk, it's not clear where Rav Noson's quoting, because the next verse number 4, reads, seor. And you should not have any leavening agent in your possession, should not be found, not be seen, any leavening agent during this Pesach experience, Pesach holiday, because of its leavening agent. It's leavening agent, which is also chametz. Okay? So, again, ki asurim lachmitz mocham v'datam klal b'hasagatam atzuma. Because it's forbidden to leaven their mind and their brains at all when they're in this scenario of this awesome light, hasagatam atzuma. No chametz at all, no waiting, just get out, just have that light to lift you up, okay? And it's a because it's way above the person's true level, it's called an awesome hasaga, an awesome perception of godliness. All this because the Jews did not yet merit the keter. The keter, just explained, will be accessible and internalized only on Shavuot, on Kabbalat Torah. When the Jews received the Torah, 50 days later after leaving Egypt, really from the day before, count 50, that's Shavuot, okay? 50 is then, it corresponds to the Keter, the access to the infinite light. The Jews can only access the infinite light if they have a vessel built from Torah and Torah observance, which is mitzvot b'simcha. Like Rabbi Nachman says in lesson 24, this lesson that this discourse is based upon, that it's only through doing the mitzvot b'simcha, only through doing the mitzvot b'simcha, can you come to the keter. And then the keter does its thing of pushing a person back, but because the person's pushed back and he's received the Torah already, he knows what to do when being pushed back. Whereas in Egypt, they didn't have that yet, so it couldn't be pushed back. You push them back, they go to minus 50. Whereas a Jew, as much as he's pushed back, he has the mitzvot and the joint in the mitzvot just to get him back up on his feet and to build vessels, then to receive the light of the keter. Okay? So he's saying here that since now they did not yet rectify the strength of the mind, which is called the organizational structuring and the settling structuring of the mind, which is the keter, and that can only be done if there's mitzvah and Torah beforehand. In other words, what is being structured and organized in the mind? It's all the Torah and mitzvah that you've absorbed in your essence, now being organized and structured. That can only happen if there's Torah. The Jews in Egypt, Pesach, was before receiving the Torah at Har Sinai. So this couldn't happen. So only once a person has the keter, then it can be pushed back. So Rav Nosson adds in other places, for this reason, we have fallen down today to minus 50 already. Why? Why is it called minus 50 already? Because we already received the Torah and the mitzvot, and there have been so many tzaddikim who've succeeded in maximizing perfecting their access to the keter. So even if we, God forbid, fall down to minus 50, through the Torah available already, and the mitzvot available, and the tzaddikim who teach us how to perform the mitzvot and Torah study with joy, despite everything we're going through in life, we can even from minus 50 come back and reconnect. We just need a lot of patience and davening and waiting until they open the doors. But it's accessible, and even from minus 50 we can get up and go forward. There's a Hashem to be continued in the next class.